And I did actually apply for the youth offending team directly, and both times, well, the first time I didn't get in, I just think I was too inexperienced, The second time I did it, I was sure I was going to get in, because I'd spoken to the lady, I'd been down there, explained myself clearly, made a good impression. And when I had the interview, I had the most awful interview. I couldn't answer the most simplest questions. And I look back now, because 6 months later, I was getting the symptoms, and I then got diagnosed with the brain tumour. And I look back and I think, somebody up there knew if I'd got that job after 6 months and then suddenly got a brain tumour, what support would I have got? I would have got none. Leicestershire Police were absolutely brilliant with me. Loads of nearly 25 years, loads and loads of support. And sort of flexibility, and so I didn't feel too bad about not getting it. But I had by then already was starting to work with the children's home. So getting on to the medical side, do you want me to go into the sort of doctor's bit, etc.?
Well, let's start with this question of those symptoms. They were like the first indication, weren't they?
They were, that's right.
Obviously, you didn't know what was really going on.
Not at all, no.
What symptoms were you actually having?
Started with headaches, and you can see the holes, the operation bit here. They were always here. So, every day I'd get like a 2-hour headache. Well, not every day at the time, it's probably every 3 days I'd get a 2-hour headache there before it went away. And I've been having these headaches every 6 months for probably 5 years, 6 years, and not really paid any attention to them, because it was only every 6 months. But it was always there. It was always really painful and felt really deep. And I just, I knew I had to basically had to go and lie down and go to sleep, and it would go away. But this time, it was every 2-3 days I'd get a 2-hour headache, and it was not whatever. I had to take painkillers for it to go away. That was the only time. And they progressively got worse. So it would be every day I'd get these headaches, and then I started to get other symptoms like my handwriting. I felt as though I couldn't control my left hand properly, and so when I was writing my scenes of crime reports, it'd be really tiny, squiggly writing, and then other people would notice that it was going down the page, not going across. It was going sort of at about a 70-degree angle across the page, and I was like, really, am I doing that? I didn't know. And then I'd be bumping into things on the left. So my spatial awareness on the left side was very poor. So I'd walk across the office and bump into a filing cabinet. When I was driving the car, I'd hit the curb on the left. My wife thought I was doing it on purpose. I think there was other things going on, and she thought I was doing it on purpose to frighten her. It's ridiculous, really. There was other symptoms as well, but
did that ever lead you into any difficult situations? Any trouble, accidents? Or?
No.
And how worried were you by those symptoms at the time?
Well, my dad had got Alzheimer's, and I thought, I'm getting Alzheimer's. I'm very young. I was 43. I'm very young to get Alzheimer's, but I've heard people getting it. So after about 2 weeks of these symptoms, I went to my GP, and that would be October, sort of mid-October. And I just said, I've got all these, but mainly it was headaches. These headaches are, really excruciating, and I'm getting them, now it's almost every day. And he just sort of said, well, because he knows me well, he's been my GP for about 17 years. So he didn't ever suggest it was depression or that, because that had more or less gone because of, the children's work. When I was doing the children's work, I was fine,
There is a danger, isn't there, occasionally, that clinicians who know there's been a mental health issue can say, it's just that again.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. So my GP said, I don't know what it is, Chris. He knows, of course, I have been a bit of a worrier as well, a bit anxious about things. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. But if you're not better in 2 weeks, come back and see me again. So, of course, 2 weeks later I was worse. The symptoms, the headaches were worse, the sort of bumping into things, everything was worse. So I went back. It wasn't my GP, it was a locum. And just what you said, the locum said, I see you've had depression and anxiety and panic attacks. I think it's those coming back. And I'm trying to say it isn't that, because I recognise that now. When I'm stressed, I recognise it now. It's not that. Oh, well, I don't know what it is. I think it might be you don't know it. What painkillers are you taking? So I said, paracetamol. Go and take stronger painkillers. But if you're not better in 2 weeks, come back. Classic cop-out. So I went away, I started taking, the big Anadin things that are, Solpadol or whatever it is, But it was only when I was taking them that I didn't have headaches. So 2 weeks later, went back, it's him again. And he said the same thing as last time. I think he was useless. I mean, as a GP, I hope I'd never come under him. He just said, I think it's the same thing. Take stronger painkillers. But if you're not better in 2 weeks, come back again. So, of course, but in 2 weeks' time, my wife would tell you, in the night, I'd have these headaches. I'd get out of bed and I'd bang my head against the wall because it was that bad. Went back to sit, and thankfully it was my GP. And he said, oh, this is no good, Chris. He said, well, I'll have to send you for a brain scan. I said, well, why didn't you put me down for one when I first saw you? He said, well, I can't. He said, if everybody came to me with headaches, I sent for a brain scan, they'd be completely overwhelmed. I said, oh, I suppose so. He says, there's up to a 9-month waiting list. This was the beginning of December. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, how long, I don't know if I can manage, for that long. His headaches are getting that bad. And my boss had noticed that things were not right. And I know now she'd written to the personnel department to say, if you have any other work that Chris can do on the same pay scale, because he's struggling with the work that we're giving him. But anyway, I think that was December the 2nd, and on December the 5th, so only 3 days later, I'd been sent home from work from the police on December the 4th because I didn't really know what I was doing. The following day I was at the children's home, December the 5th. They sent me home because I was supervising a girl there cooking a casserole in a casserole dish. And when it was cooked, I said, I'd better fetch it out in case you drop it. Guess what? I dropped it. So my boss came in, the line manager, said, Chris, I'm going to have to send you home because, you're clearly not capable of looking after yourself, never mind anybody else. He said, we've noticed you've had a problem the last few weeks. I said, well, thank you for noticing, but I don't know what's the matter. I think I've got Alzheimer's or something. Now, I went home on my motorbike. On the way home on the dual carriageway, I was driving, but I was overtaking, there was very slow moving traffic. For me, they were doing 50. I was overtaking down the middle at about 60 and thinking, is this right? I didn't know whether it was right to overtake down the middle, or not. Eventually I decided, no, it doesn't feel safe. So when I got the opportunity, I pulled back into the left side, went too far, went right up the grass verge, came back on the road and thought, that was odd, why did I do that? Anyway, got home. At the children's home, you eat with the children. So I'd had nothing to eat. So I was in the kitchen making myself a sandwich, and suddenly I was just spontaneously sick. I didn't know why. I didn't feel sick, just and it all went all down me. So I thought, bathroom, get changed, get out these clothes, have a shower. And when I was in the bathroom getting changed, getting out my clothes, I was overbalanced and fell in the bath. And I just couldn't get out. I was obviously sweaty because I'd been sick, and I just lost so much that was another thing, I'd lost so much upper body strength. My son was into bodybuilding, and he got a punch bag. Punch this bag, Dad. I felt like I was like a mouse trying to punch this bag. I just got no strength in my left arm at all. Anyway, so I knew that the time was about 3 o'clock. And my wife would be home in 15 minutes. So I trying to get out of the bath, I banged my head. So I thought, this is not good, just lie here and wait. And the wife came home, helped me out the bath, and she'd helped me into bed, basically. I can't remember a lot after that. Apparently she called 999. Apparently she bought me a cup of tea and I spilt it all down myself. She had to put me in the shower again. And the ambulance was like, is it an emergency? Because my wife's screaming. Well, I don't know, but my husband's been terrible for, weeks, or months, and now he's collapsed and fell in the bath. He doesn't know what he's doing, he's not making any sense, So they came, took me to the walk-in centre, and thankfully a doctor at the walk-in centre had something about him and said, there's something not right here. He said to my wife, possibly he's had a stroke. So he did a few tests. No, I've not had a stroke. Right, I'm sending you for a brain scan today. But by that time, it was like 5 in the late afternoon. And by the time they called an ambulance to take me to Leicester General Hospital, all the radiologists had gone home, so I had to wait till the next day when they finally found that I'd got a brain tumour. Yeah.
And was it diagnosed then and there?
Not the type, but they, poor nurse, you know, I felt really sorry for her. She came to see me the next morning after I'd had this scan. It was a CT scan, and she was given the job of telling me. She came to the bed and said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Sedman. I've got the results of your scan here. You've got a very large lump in your brain, and it is a brain tumour." I mean, it must have been horrible for her having to tell me. I look back now and think that, but for me, when she said a very large lump in your brain, that minute or second, it's as though I switched off. Somehow it wasn't me she was talking to, I was somewhere else and she was telling somebody else. So you've got a very large lump in your brain, it is a brain tumour. And for 2 hours, I was sort of like in a world of my own, you know. Or they said, we're going to start you on steroids straight away. And probably, to get them straight away, 2 hours later, I guess, because they really shrink the tumour fantastically. 2 hours later it hit me, I've got a brain tumour. And it was just like, well, that's it, that's the end of my life. I'm going to die. I've never heard of anybody with a brain tumour who'd survived. You know, I'll never see my wife again, I'll never see my children again. And then they said they were going to send me to the Queen's Medical Centre for an operation. And working for the police, the only people I know who'd been to the QMC with head injuries had died. So I thought, I'm going to the QMC to die. Well, you know, I felt absolutely awful. And I say I've been a Christian for 20 years or so, and it was a real test. Not that God wasn't there, but that how could I trust him? You know, it allowed me to have a brain tumour. How could I trust him? Can I trust him again? And it's only been that, you know, building up, I suppose, of, you know, that I'm now able to be as positive as I am.